Hey guys, welcome back to Club 30. I'm Henrik Lundqvist, your host.
I'm Jay Liddell.
Jay Liddell, my good old friend.
Hey, buddy.
Today, we have a great episode.
Awesome.
Good friend, Hans Vestberg, CEO of Verizon. That's a big job.
Huge job. I mean, this guy's a legend in business. And it was really super interesting for me to hear. You often hear about the similarities between sports and business and how cliche it is. But I think Hans is a guy who could really, he brought it right to center. It was really, really interesting for me.
We'll get into it during the interview, but first time I met him and just, he's very interested in learning.
Yeah.
He's curious. He's talked about this in a lot of interviews. It's a big thing for him as a leader to be curious. But you feel that also when you meet him for the first time. He wants to get to know you and to learn things about you in a way to have a better read on you, I guess.
No doubt. I mean, I felt like he walked in here ready to go. I mean, he was just really, really engaged from minute one.
He has a passion. There's no question about it.
Unbelievable. I mean, the fact that he's been, the amount of energy he brings to this conversation. Obviously he's the CEO and chairman of Verizon, and he's also speaking to his stakeholders. I mean, I'd buy that stock with him at the helm. That's the kind of guy I want to follow. And is really, really inspirational. So,
well, I hope you guys enjoy this little sit down with Hans. He's a good friend, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as we did.
Yeah, and if you like what you hear and see, please subscribe, become a member of Club 30 with us, and here's to the future.
Let's get to it. Here's to sit down with Hans Vestberg. He's a friend, fellow Swede, sports fanatic, and happens to be chairman and CEO of one of the largest companies in the world, Verizon. Welcome to Club 30, Hans Vestberg.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic to be here.
Great to have you here, Hans. And you know what? I think back, we met a couple of years ago at a friend's house. Not Hans. Let's do that again. So we met at our friend Ari for dinner, and I've heard a lot about you going into that dinner. And I remember we had so many great conversations about, different places around the world, technology, sports. I was in a very interesting place myself, so we talked a lot about that. But I remember leaving that dinner thinking about, wow, your energy is so good. So where is that coming from? It's always upbeat, even now walking into the studio.
Yeah, I have a lot of energy. I love what I'm doing. And I remember that dinner as well, because it was the first time I met you. So yeah, of course. I also know that I meet a lot of people in my work. I mean, employees, customers, shareholders, investors. And it might be the only time they ever meet me. And I'm probably one of the biggest brand ambassadors for the brand Verizon. So I think a lot about that. I think about how I behave and when I meet people, because it's so important.
The first impression.
First impression, it might be the last impression, because
right.
I don't know when I'm going to meet them again. So for me, it becomes enormously important how I behave. And I always use the energy, because that's me. I mean, that's how I am.
Hans, what was your first impression of Hank?
Wow, that's an interesting one, because everyone had the perception and the view of Henrik was he's very well known, he's a star and
good
everything.
Flow.
So yeah. So I think I found him very nice. He was a nice guy, surprisingly. No, he very nice, and also very deep, because that was a time also when it was pre-COVID. We met for the first time. You had some thoughts about your future and all of that. So it was a very surprising, but surprising in a very positive way.
Yeah.
Because we shared so many things, even though we're doing totally different things. I mean, he was a professional sports player, one of the best in the world. I'm working, I'm a businessman, but we had so many things that are similar, even though we come from different worlds.
Yeah.
So your energy really stood out to me, but also how busy you are. That really stood out. We were talking about the people you were meeting all over the world and where you were flying the next day. And to me, obviously, playing professional sports, it was a very structural, like the schedule was set. We knew everything, when it was happening, how it was happening. And for you, like, can you just take us through a day or a week a little bit? How do you spend your time?
Let me take you back to 2009. I was appointed to be CEO for the first time in my life of a big public company, just past 40 years old.
Ericsson, right?
Ericsson, yeah. And my thinking was that, I have done all my jobs and I've become the CEO, and I didn't know what the CEO is doing. And it's not a textbook where you read what is the CEO supposed to do. So I sat down and started thinking, what is that I can do that nobody else can do? And then I started to actually measure every hour I work, and I do a forecast in advance in a quarter. I have 6 different large buckets, how I spend my time. 3 is internal things, and 3 is external things, with customers, shareholders, big public speakings. Only things that I can do due to my position. Internal is more about governance, board meetings, about strategy, and then, of course, developing talent. And then I start distributing that, so I really are strict how I spend my time, because it's very easy when you're in large corporation that you end up, you can work with one thing only all the time.
Right, you're reacting to, it's easy to react.
You react.
Yeah.
And that's not right. So I need to focus on what I work on very much. Then I can, of course, change my mind and I get something happening, but I know when I deviate from the plan. So I would say I'm very strict with my hours. I have a statistic since 2009 until 2022, how I spent every working hour.
Is that going to be published?
I publish it for my leaders every quarter when I meet them. I tell them, this is how I spent my quarter. And then I look them in the eyes. Did you think how you spent your hours this quarter? Because it's important as a leader you spend on the right time. And they always start scribbling, oh my God, I need to check it. But it's a way for me to actually focus and do the right things rather than being distracted.
Yeah.
So obviously you deal with a lot of pressure. There's a lot of expectations, big company. And I just think of my role playing professional sports. There was a lot of pressure, expectations. And for me, the preparation was key and routines. Are you similar in that way?
Oh yeah. I have so many routines and so many preparation. Go back to the first, every meeting, every encounter I have, I know it can be the last or I need to give big impression. I prepare for every meeting. I read a lot. I try to understand what we're going to talk about. Then I have routines. I'm not sure how many earnings calls I've done in my life, but many.
Yeah.
This routine is the same. I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning. I go to the office. I read all the information. I write my own one-pager of all the main messages because I need to write them so I have them 100% clear when I get the questions. I do that every quarter, and I've done it since my first earnings call in 2009. So I have routines for a lot of things. I have routine how I train, how I measure it. For me, and it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, having routine and processes really makes me believe that I can solve very big problems.
So do you stress about it if you break your routine? I remember playing and I had so many things going on between periods. What I was drinking, when I was drinking it, how much I was drinking.
That sounds like superstition.
He was more superstitious.
Yeah.
That was not the process, it was superstition.
That's a fine line though. A lot of that thing, the things I was doing, I knew I needed to do it. I knew my body really well, how much I needed to drink, how much I needed to eat. So it was part of my routine, obviously in preparation. But some of the things too, when I broke those things, sometimes it can make me a little stressful or stressed out. But I guess finding that balance of not doing too much to going into a meeting or a game.
Was there any other time where you broke routine and you had a great result?
I remember one time I overslept. So, again, I had so many things I had to do before a game. And I walk into the locker room and they're in, full team meetings. It was an early game. It was like 1 o'clock. So the thing I do the day before, I set the alarms and figure out my day before it's about to happen. Obviously, I need to eat breakfast that time. I need to get in the car that time. I need to get to the garden at that time and do all these things. And I just miscalculated by an hour. So I get there. I got there. And guys were stressed because they knew, I needed to do all these things to play. So I remember the coach at the time was John Tortorella. He came up and was like, he stared me deep in my eyes and was like, "Are you going to be okay?" I just looked and was like, "Yes, don't talk to me." And then I ran away and did all my things and actually ended up having a great game because then part of you kind of focus even more to make up for that.
That sounds liberating to me, where you can be decoupled from the full routine to perform. Anything like in the business world where...
Yeah, I do the same, but I do it because people get their certain perception, a certain expectation how I act.
Oh, yeah.
And then I change totally how I act. So I can
keep them on their toes.
I can come into a meeting, have so much energy, I speak a lot and all the time. Next time, I'm just quiet all the meeting. So I change up because that also changes how people are acting.
Yeah.
And historically for a CEO and chairman, for example, you always sit at the same chair. Yeah. So people look at, he's going to sit there. Then I start to say, other place, okay, that's a change up.
Love that.
So it's more about you change the routines for the people around you, which makes another result because you cannot be taken equally every time because you need to change things constantly in order to improve.
Yeah.
Routines or processes is to come to an end result, but the way there for me could be very different how I act, how I speak, who I interact with, who I integrate in the conversation.
Yeah.
Very different every time.
It's almost like having different modes of routine for different circumstances.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting.
So me and Jay, we talk a lot about, the things we're passionate about, things we like to do, and for you, do you think you need to be passionate about what you do to be successful?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't be passionate about that, it would be seen of all my stakeholders immediately. My shareholders, my customers, the employees, the people reporting to me, all of them will lose I would lose credibility if I wouldn't be having passion about it. And I really believe in what we're doing and how great it is and the mission we have, the purpose as a company.
Yeah, I feel like, because I do get a lot of questions from parents and coaches. What can we do to help the kids to succeed and get better and make it? And in the end, to me, it comes down a lot of times to passion, because it doesn't matter how good you are. In the end, you're gonna hit some bumps, and it's the passion for what you do that's gonna help you get over that bump.
Like, could you be as passionate as a CEO in maybe a tech-related or adjacent company that wasn't comms? Or is there a marriage?
Maybe not. No, I'm not sure about that. There are definitely places I wouldn't be passionate about, and I wouldn't be good even. I always say that, put me on a small company, I'm going to be a disaster, With my energy, if it's 10 people, that's not going to work. I think I'm good at leading large organization. And this goes back to one of the most important things you have, at least in a company. You need to think about, you start with what you're good at yourself. What are you really good at?
Yeah.
And I have done a lot of soul searching. I don't find so much what I'm good at, but I think I'm good on leadership and empower, giving energy to people.
Yeah.
That has been, and then I need to populate people around me that is good at other things than that. And the model I developed some 14 years ago was, okay, if I'm really good at that, I need to bring that out every day.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I cannot be being bad mood or something. It doesn't really work. So I started with this model where I measure every day. The morning after, when I wake up, I think about the day yesterday. I grade it from 0 to 10, how the day was. If I'm, let's say, between 4 and 8, that's my sweet spot. I'm a good leader. I'm using my strength as a leader. That is what I think I'm best in my leadership on. If I'm between 1 to 3, probably shouldn't have a meeting. Probably should be staying in my room, thinking about strategy. And if I'm between 9 and 10, I have so much energy so people get tired just of seeing me. So it's
you burn them out.
Yeah. So, but it goes back to, in leadership, you start with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Self-leadership, what I'm good at. Then you can think about the people you need around you in order to get the group dynamic. and then you spend the time on strategic leadership, where you're going or something like that.
Got it. And I think that's where the interesting parallel comes, like where it is appropriate to compare sports and business. Because Hank, I don't know anything about goaltending, even less than I know about being a Fortune 50 CEO. But you kind of reinvented the game from a goaltender perspective, right? Your positioning and you doubled down behind your strengths, just like Hans doubled down behind his. How did you complement yourself, recognize your blind spots with the rest of the team?
Question.
Well, coming from Europe, bigger rink, to here, North America, smaller rinks, faster game. The guys shooting the puck way better, more accuracy and harder. So I had to adjust my game a little bit and play deeper. And what did that do to my game? Well, it gave me more reaction time.
Play deeper in the net.
In the net.
Yeah.
And, it gave me more time to analyze what was going on in front of me. Yeah. And also, we always talked about try to have the play in front of you, which happened a lot because I played deeper in the net. But I try to play to that strength, knowing that I'm going to have some weak spots because I'm doing just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the key was to really be committed to that style, knowing that it's going to be the best way forward for me.
Yeah. And would your teammates on the ice react to make sure that those weak spots were covered, or is it not?
I think I was playing off of them more than they played off of me.
Okay.
I think the big thing though, when you play defense especially, is just to agree on how to play defense. Yeah. There's so many different ways of playing good defense.
Yeah.
But in the end, you need to be on the same page.
Yeah.
When it comes to how are we going to play a 2-on-1? How are we going to block a shot? Are we covering far side, short side? Are we going to be aggressive on a 2-on-1? Are we going to stay back? Are we going to let the goalie challenge the shooter or take the backdoor pass?
Yeah.
So all those things is something you have to address and talk about and be on the same page. And you can get to the same result, but in different ways. But
so you each have your own manifesto, right?
Like, yes. Communication was key, obviously.
Yeah.
And to achieve is that, for me, when I played for the longest time, it was so important to achieve, to be really happy. And now I kind of shift a little bit and try to put happiness first and finding ways to reach that. But obviously, I'm on a new path now.
You're definitely on a new path.
It used to be
few would see this would happening, that he is now sitting in podcast, coming from where it was. So I think you have pretty big pivot. But yeah.
Yeah, but can you be very happy if you're not achieving or performing? Is it hard for you?
It's hard, but it can also be time lag, because when I feel happy, I sort of have the team with me are doing a lot of great things. That doesn't mean that we have achieved the result we want to have. So the happiness might be earlier than you see the result, and especially when you're dealing with large things that I do every day, and you have achievements that mean something for you and the team, but haven't really materialized in something. I think so. There could be a disconnect between achievements and happiness in business, but ultimately they need to come together somewhere. Yeah. They need to come together somewhere, but doesn't need to be in time the same. Then you need all the time also in the sports that you were doing or whatever you're doing to see that there are two parts of it. You have a private life. And one of the hard things is to see that you have a private life and you have a business life, and there could be a different happiness in them. And if they start to contaminate each other, that's really bad. If it's in a bad mood, I would say. So you need to keep that separate as well. And I think I became CEO in 2009. So of course I've been into this for a long time. And one of the worst things is you have a really lot of adversity at job, at work, and then you bring that at home as well.
Sure.
That's really bad.
So how do you deal with that? Stress and adversity. How do you deal with it?
I think I compartmentalized a lot of things constantly. I focus so much on what I'm doing here and now all the time. And when I go to next thing, because just imagine, there are many decisions, many different things I do in a day. I mean, it could be deciding about how our store should look like. Then I talk to an investor next meeting. And in the third meeting, I talk about cost cut. In the fourth, how we're going to grow our revenue. So of course, if I bring every meeting to next meeting, it's just going to be contamination. So I try to deal with everything, and that goes as well when I come home and with my family. Then I'm with my family. Now I compartmentalize it. It's sort of a process, but it's a way to survive, because if I bring everything with me to every meeting, everything I do, it's just going to be hard.
I was so bad at that. Like but I remember when I was playing it.
Absolutely.
Like,
you went home crying every game.
He did.
That's not okay.
Every loss, yeah.
I didn't cry, but I came home really annoyed, upset, frustrated, and I would wake up that way too. A lot of times I, would bring it to the rink the next day and then snap out of it when you were on the ice.
Yeah.
The good thing about playing hockey is there's a new game every other day, right? Yeah. So you can't let yourself get stuck. You have to move forward and like start preparing for what's coming. But if I had a week until the next game, it would have been tough for me. No question about it.
Same for me. I have a meeting in 1 hour and the next hour I have another meeting. You have games every day. So I cannot bring that with me. And again, I go back to what is my strength? What should I really give to my team? Yeah. Empowerment, leadership, that's the most important. If I bring something bad from last meeting and these guys, shareholders, employees, customers, whatever, they have nothing to do with what happened in the other meeting. So you just need to get over it quickly, focus on that, be prepared, and have your mindset on that one. And that is probably a skill set you need to develop over time.
Well, I think our relationship changed when you were contemplating retirement and you became really curious about what else there could be, right? Like that curiosity doesn't really have a place in rigid structure because it's already defined. And when we started talking more deeply about next chapters, that's basically why Club 30 was born. Yeah. Based on our conversations during COVID, where are we going to go?
Yeah.
How are we going to spend the next 20 years of our lives together?
Yeah.
When you started to be more intentional about being curious, like I think that is when, we thought like, oh, this is a different set of rules, right? And on the rink, it's a closed system. And so are there instances where compartmentalization might be a detractor, where you can bring curiosity into something?
It might be. I think my curious I'm all the time. That's sort of the number one in my leadership, because if I'm going to lead you, I need to know you.
Yeah.
The people react so different. I can tell you to the same thing. I give you the same task and you will solve it different. I will give you an example. I was leading a big group with a lot of diversity, different cultures. And I asked them for a budget. And I told them, give me 2 budgets, one aggressive and one less aggressive that you feel good about. You have 1 week and come back. Okay? One guy came in to me 5 minutes after meeting. Remember, I told him 1 week. And he said, what number do you need? And I told him, I want 2 numbers. No, just tell me a number, I fix it. That was one guy. Then another guy, he came in 2 weeks later, not on time. And he had 5 alternatives. And I said, where did you misunderstand my English?
Right.
And he said, no. As a Frenchman, I'm learned to give you many options. So he was trained to, when the boss asked for something, he needed to do better. The first guy, he was trained by an entrepreneur that always wanted one number, don't come with many different things. These guys were in the same team. They got the same instruction from me, and they interpreted differently. If I knew them, as I knew later on, I will always tell the entrepreneur, I need 2 numbers. I don't need 5. I don't need 1. I need them in a week.
Right.
And with the French guy, I told him, don't wish-washy here, brother. Give me exactly the 2 numbers. That's what I need. So you need to be very different. Same task, different people. And if you're not curious enough to learn the background, where they come from, how they were educated, how the childhood was. And when I do an interview nowadays, when people are going to report to me, the CV is fine and what they've done. You ask about their childhood, how they were brought up, what type of leadership have you been around, and that's more important.
The bottom of the resume.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so important when you're going to lead people.
And I feel like thinking back of great coaches that I've had, they had that skill.
Exactly.
They get to know the players, and you have also coaches where they're treating everybody the same, and they're treating them like robots a little bit. And in the end, if to get the max performance, you need to know who you're dealing with.
Sure.
Yeah,
right to your point.
I used to remember when I played team handball, and I usually played in the defense in the middle. If it was 10 seconds left, I knew the guy to the right, if I would start screaming to him, just do a goal, he got nervous. The guy to the left, I needed to scream to him really to be excited the last 10 seconds to defend our goal. So very different there already when I was in sports and team, you know. Who did I sort of give more encouragement for? And I don't know, Henrik was, if he needed more encouragement or if you need to talk to him slowly or be nice to him. I don't know.
Don't talk to me at all.
Don't talk to him at all.
Don't bother
exactly.
him.
Don't bother him.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of, if you are a leader, if you're not curious about Henrik's background, how you treat him in a stressful situation, how you prepare him best in the talks, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Right. That's interesting.
Well, let's get into handball.
Oh,
we
yeah.
know you were really good handball player back in Sweden.
Okay, we level set here. I mean, we are talking to one of the best goalies in the world. So I was not good. I was okay.
You're okay. Okay, you say good. I'm going to say great. But here's the thing. Like I talk about handball to my friends here in the U.S. It's a great sport.
Me too.
I love watching it. It's physical. It's fast. A lot of technique. People don't seem to really understand what we're talking about. They think about a different handball.
I've only met a couple handball athletes, and I still don't know.
So, Hans, do you have a good way of explaining the game of handball to an American? That, you know, in Europe it's big, it's huge, and people love it.
Oh yeah, this question I get so often. So this is the most predictable answer I have. You know,
okay,
it's water polo without water with rules that is similar to basketball.
Huh?
Oh. I'm going to write that down.
No water.
Yeah, no water.
No water.
It's a court, and you play with goals, and you shoot with your hands.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the rules are a little bit like basket. You cannot run as many steps as you want. You cannot dribble as long as you want. So they're similar. It's very physical. There are no pads. Extremely fast. Professional league in basically every country in Western Europe and Eastern Europe. Also in Asia. I would say US, Canada, and a couple of countries around here are the least developed when it comes to team handball in the world.
Yeah.
Where do you think it hasn't really become a success over here?
I don't know. I think historically, of course, with the strong school systems. I mean, Henrik and I come from Sweden, where basically sports is done outside the school system.
Yeah,
I see.
Every club is based on parents that is training, being part of the administration. That's how you do soccer, how you do team handball, ice hockey in Sweden. Here, everything is built from the school system. Team handball has never been part of the school system. So for many reasons, the only way to make it big in the US is to get into the school system.
Right.
In Sweden, you can have two guys like Henrik and me that loves handball. We started in a city, and then we got three other friends start another club in another city. So it's a little different setup, how we think about sports in Sweden and the US. It's not little, it's a big difference.
Big difference.
Big difference.
So I think that's one of the reasons. And then, of course, you have so many competing great sports here.
Yeah.
First, I played team handball, never made it to the national team or anything like that. But I came back as a president of the Swedish Handball Federation. So I thought I was important for handball. But after that, of course, I became also the president of the Swedish Olympic Committee. I made that to the shortest tenure of any president of the Olympic Committee because I came to Verizon, so I had to step down. But what I worked a lot with was, of course...
They paid better or something?
No,
or?
I think, first of all, the Olympic Committee is a non-profit movement, so there was zero pay. But that was my passion. My passion is sports. I love to work with sport, and that was really my dream. Then my dream was also be first in the world with 5G and run a large American company. Yeah. So I was torn in between that, and then I had to step down. But what I worked with in the Olympic Committee was actually in the time where Sweden tried to get the Winter Olympics 2026. So that was my main work during 2.5 years. Then I unfortunately had to step down. And then 1 year later, we lost with, I think, 15 votes to Italy, the 2026 Winter Olympics.
I mean, you go to a lot of sporting events. I know that, but I've seen you a lot at Ranger games as well. And
I do a lot of Rangers game. Yeah. If I'm home, I have season tickets. I go to every Rangers game I can go. I'm not sure how many I went to this year, but I went to many. I love to go to hockey games. I think Rangers is... I usually don't have favorites because Verizon, we sponsor, I think, 20 NFL teams, 15 NBA teams, and 10 in NHL. So I keep it... I'm neutral, but in hockey, I've actually decided I have a favorite team, and that's Rangers. And that's because of Henrik.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Henrik was a Ranger guy.
Why? That's weird.
It's weird. And he's Swedish as well, so it's even more weird. But No, I go to a lot of Rangers game. I love the sport. I love the speed. I love it's happening so much in a hockey game.
Yeah.
What about music? Are
Yes.
you a music guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have it when I run, and I run a lot. So now I listen to music, but I have always a purpose with the music. So the purpose is usually my next record I want to do or something, meaning I have running records. Let's say I have a 10K in front of me. I want to do it in a certain time. Then I do a playlist that exactly that long. So I know when it's over, I'm not done. Yeah. So it's a way for me to press myself. So, and then I have different musics. Usually I like a lot of techno and rap.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
oh yeah.
Wow.
That's what I listen to, and usually doing slower music in the beginning when I run. If I do a 10K, 50 minutes or whatever, I have the first 10, 15 minutes a little bit slower, and then it goes up. So I think about music, but I do it for a purpose, for something.
Do you have any publicly available playlists that we could listen
Run
to?
with Hans is a fairly known hashtag actually that I use.
Hans.
Yeah, Run with Hans, hashtag Run with Hans. I'm not sure how many playlists I have, but I have some. But I on my Instagram I usually put out when I'm out running, and I call it Run with Hans. It's also a message to my employees that you can work a lot, but you need to find a passion where you can stress off a little bit. For me is go out running or training in general.
Yeah.
That has given me sort of, my brain is going somewhere else for a while. And then of course I always put out some achievements, some goals I want to achieve, because it's just part of
But the music to you is important then to kind of set tone. Like for me, thinking back during my career, music played a huge part. But it all came down to what was about to happen. When in the afternoon for a nap, I listened to a certain type of music. Going to the ring, driving to the garden, it was one type of music. 2 hours before the game, it was more punk rock and more.
Was it punk rock 2 hours before the game?
Rock and roll, punk rock, and I mean a lot of these songs.
Classic music. You were sitting down as a goalie,
I would never. A lot of those
string
songs,
section.
I would not listen to it at home. But for me to get into a certain mindset, I had this type of music that I like to listen to. But it changed so much over the course of the day. Napping and then getting ready, and then the last preparation, and just I love to feel something, and music really makes me feel something, and set the tone and mindset and focus. So thinking back, I've spent so many hours listening to music to get ready.
Okay, I'm not listening even close to that. I usually do it when I'm running.
Yeah.
That's when I use.
And you live in the city now. I know when we met, you lived outside the city. You now moved into New York City. How do you feel about that transition?
Our family, I'm not sure I have the data right here, but I think we have moved 15 times in 20 years. We constantly moved.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Everyone is listening. 15 times in 20 years, that's a lot. I just want to clarify that.
And it's also cross-border. Lived in Latin America, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, then in Sweden, but we moved in Sweden several times. I've lived in so many places. Every time I come to a new place, I just find something just amazing. New York is amazing. Everything exists here. It's a diverse city. So no, I like it here. But I lived in New Jersey before. I love that as well. I lived in Stockholm before that. I lived in Mexico City. I loved all the places. I always find something in them. But New York is very special. I think that anybody that has been here and stayed here, but it's very different to visit New York, which I did for many years when I came here for businesses and vacation, and to live here. It's a different vibe.
But do people recognize you here in this? If you walk down the street here, sometimes.
Yeah.
Can you live a pretty normal life?
Yeah, a normal life I think I am, because I think I'm normal myself. But normal life is, of course, many people recognize me, and we have a huge impact as a company. So yeah, it comes with my work.
Somewhat normal.
It's like for you. I guess people recognize you. You have a pretty face as well, so which is different from me. But exactly.
Yeah.
and you are more famous than any of us. So, but of course, people recognize me. But sometimes they confuse me because they can have seen me on TV and they can ask me, "But you're a sports guy." No, you have seen me on CNBC.
People ask you for favors, a lot of favors.
No, they don't. There could be somebody ask me, I have a problem with my mobile phone or something like that. But,
service.
But everybody will know that I won't fix it. So no, there's no. But of course, I take many important decisions every day that impacts so many people.
Sure.
So of course, people want to influence me. I'm very cautious about my decision making because it's not that I only impact the people working close to me, man. There are many people around us, partners, suppliers, on a decision that have huge impacts. I always, of course, have thinking financially, what do we mean? But I also think, can I do this sustainable, do in the right way? I mean, I can give you an example so you understand how important it is. So we just, we did our 4th green bond 1 year ago. We do a green bond, we buy green energy. It's important for us because we have certain plans for the future to be neutral. So then you buy that and you do a bond and then you have a bank in between you and the bank is doing all the trading. This time we want minority-owned banks to be the agents for our bond.
Good for you guys.
I think we got way over 15% of all the fees went to minority-owned banks. So I actually, with my power of decision, brought in banks that never could work with Verizon. That were minority-owned. I didn't get the bad deal. I get the same deal from them that I get from the large banks that you see here in Manhattan. But it's a way how you think about your decision-making every day and how it can impact people. Think how many people I can impact with my decision by doing the right things, but still have the finance and the financial outcome that is important to us. But clearly, decision-making and asking favor doesn't really work with me. Yeah. It's more about
the system.
I'm doing the right for my stakeholders.
Yeah.
And if I can do it for all stakeholders at the same time, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But having so many people around you too, is it hard to trust people? Like, are you good at recognizing people having an agenda, for example? Like I run into a lot of people that, it's great to see you, but in the end, there's a favor there. Down, all the way down on the page, there's a favor to be asked, and also friends. You need to be sure who's who.
Yeah, you are cautious. You are a public person. You have an extremely important work. You have a responsibility that is enormous. It's like sometimes when you think about it, your responsibility, it becomes extremely large. How many people you touch, how many shareholders that are relying on me. So yes, you are cautious. Of course, there are people that want to sell me something or get a favor. So you're a little bit more cautious on making new friends. I don't do so many new friends. But I understand when it's a business relationship and when I have a friendship. You're getting a little bit more. You're getting more cautious over time, and I think that's just normal and it's logic as well because you don't want to have any mix of that.
No, but obviously it's always important to have a good crew around you.
Yeah.
Friends, family, and people that you can really trust. That's why I ask. Like, trust is so important to me, and to have good people. I'd rather have fewer people that I know I can trust 100% than have too many people. But obviously, living in New York and I've lived there for so long, you run into so many people. And, and to your point, Hans, like knowing what's what. Like, good friends, or this is business, or what kind of role do we have here, and kind of accept that role and that both sides understand it.
Yeah,
I think that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I had one more.
Said, I just want to, I was thinking, Hans, 15 places in 20 years.
Yeah, I think that's right. You probably need to consult my wife, but it's something close to that. We have moved houses, and places.
Do you see a lot of big difference between Swedes and Americans? Like you obviously in your work, you have to negotiate and talk deals. Is there a big difference talking to a Swede versus an American?
I think what you said before is a smaller rink. The shots are coming faster. It is different, of course. I mean, and of course, also, I was blessed by working at Ericsson for 28 years. It was an amazing company, one of the largest in the world in what they're doing. But we have to be honest, when you come to Verizon, it's a new league, you know, with the size of it and the importance in our society of mobility, broadband, and the size we have in this country. So of course, you feel that you're another league, and it's totally new people to deal with. So it's different, but it's also the same type of problems you try to solve regardless of size. I mean, if you have a company with 50, you would have the same problems I have, but mine is a little bit bigger.
A little bit.
But it's the same problems. You need talent, you need to have the right strategy, you need a purpose, you need to generate cash. So it's the same thing, it's just larger. But it's different to deal with, but it's also very international, that what we do, and we deal with international people that I worked with a lot. So but it's clearly different to work in a strong US company. We have business in 150 countries, but clearly consumer business we only have in the US. Right. So it's very much sort of the equals to American company, what we have here at Verizon. So it's different to deal with it.
Did your 6 buckets change, internal, external, from Ericsson to Verizon?
Not maybe between Ericsson and Verizon to some extent, because one difference that I have here, I'm both the chairman and the CEO.
Right.
So of course the buckets changed. I need to spend much more time with investors, with the board than I needed doing my previous job. Then I have spent much more with consumer here, which I didn't do so much with Ericsson. So clearly I've changed it, but it always goes back to understand your society. I always, when people ask me, what do you mean by that? I mean, do you need to change yourself when you come to different countries? And I worked in different countries. No, but I need to understand people. So I always, when I come to a new country, I ask people, so why are you here? Why do you work with us, etc. Yeah. So I remember when I came to Brazil the first time, I started to interview everybody in the department. And after 5 interviews, it was clear all the people at Ericsson in Brazil, they worked there for one reason. They were the best friends. They met on Fridays, they brought all their friends, they brought their families, the grandmothers, the parties together. And then I start thinking, as a Swede, the last thing you do is that being with your colleagues at work at weekends, or because, I have real friends, not the ones at work. And then you're a Swede and you start thinking, how do I do that? Because in Sweden, you separate sort of work life and private life. That is pretty clear distinction. In Brazil, it's just seamless in between. It's party and it's work and the same people all the time. So then you need, how do you adapt to that? I don't change my leadership, but I adapt that. I also join those barbecues with every family member, because that was what was expected from a leader. So again, that's a little bit when you come to the US as well. Here's very important with titles, how people are perceived, etc. Maybe not a Swede usually don't care so much what title do I have. It's very important in the US, and you need to understand that. Yeah. So you need to be social aware, but don't change your leadership. I think that has been my answer to, is it different in the US? Yeah, there are many social behaviors that are different here. I need to acknowledge them. I need to understand them, but I don't need to change how I lead them. But I need to be curious enough.
Yeah.
Will you move back to Sweden?
No. Probably not.
Probably not?
No, I think that, first of all, I think I have family still in Sweden, but my majority and my closest family is here in the US, and my children is here, and I think they're going to be here as well. So for me, I think, but everything can change for me. But right now, my focus is here. I love to be here. I love the work I'm doing at Verizon.
Yeah, I think... for the past 17, 18 years, I kind of had the same schedule going back to Sweden every summer. Yeah. It's been a good boost to see everyone, friends, family, and get re-energized there. But then it feels so good to come back. And there's something about this city in New York, the energy, the people, and Jay, we talked about earlier how I met you, Hans, through friends, and that's what I really love about this city. Through friends, meeting more great people, interesting people, and I think about that first time I met you. It was a great night, and I appreciate our friendship, and I really appreciate you taking the time coming here today. So thanks, Hans, and I'll see you at the Garden soon. I know you're gonna be there.
No, of course. No, thank you for having me, guys. It's always great.
Maybe pencil in a little bit of Club 30 time in your outside stakeholder.
It's probably in the bucket number 7 or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. 7. Yeah, we'd love that.
That was awesome. Thank you so much to Hans for taking the time in his busy schedule, sitting down with me and Jay, talking about so many different things. I learned a lot today, Jay.
Yeah, me too. I mean, what a legend.
That was great.
If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to wherever you're listening, become a member of Club 30, and continue on this voyage with me and Henrik.
All right, guys. That's it. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Next time.